Hello, welcome to today's webinar brought to you by ThinkAloud Interactive. My name is Kelly Naysayer. I'll be your host today. We're so excited you guys were able to join us today. I know that the holidays are fast approaching, so we have a great presentation coming up for you guys. We're going to be talking on moderating, and this is going to work well for anyone who's a beginner, or even if you're a seasoned moderator who's been doing this for years. We have some really great tips and tricks for you today, so hopefully you're going to walk away with a lot. And we want to make this as interactive as possible for everyone. A couple of things to keep in mind throughout the broadcast. You can ask questions, so feel free to submit in the Q&A box that you'll see on there. And we'll be happy to answer them at the end when we have an allotted Q&A time. You can also submit questions to us on Twitter with the hashtag KLI events, so feel free to send them there. So without further ado, let's introduce our presenter today. We have Andrew Shaw with us, who is ThinkAloud Interactive's Principal Researcher and Director. He has a wealth of knowledge with moderating. He's done thousands of different sessions with participants, a lot of experience under his belt that he's going to share with everyone today. So this is a great point for you to take off.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. As Kelly mentioned, I have done quite a bit of moderating. But today I really want you to focus on how to become a good moderator. And share with you some tips and tricks I've learned along the way. But even just starting to think about how good a moderator you are right now, and whether you're a beginner or someone who's been doing this for 20 years. And we'll focus on what makes a good moderator, and the situations you have to deal with as a moderator and some unexpected events. And we're going to end with, I think it'll be kind of fun and interactive.
Yeah, definitely.
Some different kind of personas I developed of people I've seen over and over again, and how do you deal with those different personalities that you encounter, and ultimately how are we going to get good findings from the people who come in the door.
So I have a question for you. You've worked with a lot of different moderators over the years. You've seen a lot. Would you say a lot of people consider themselves a good moderator? I mean,
well, that's a good question. Maybe we should ask the folks at home.
Let's see what they think.
So, do you guys feel like you're a good moderator? And you can help us out. There's just a quick poll here. Just put yes or no and submit your answer. And in a moment, we'll sort of see. We'll take a pulse of the audience right now, and and see where people stand. So we'll just give you a moment to submit your answer. So I'm curious. So
I know, me too. I don't know. It'll be interesting to hear people's results. I mean, yeah, we'll see what they have to say.
Okay.
I don't know. It could sway one way or the other.
Well,
we're
going to find out
in just a second.
So let's see. Okay. Well, well over 75% of you think that you're a good moderator. So that's interesting. So,
so what does make a good moderator?
Well,
what would you say?
Well, I think first we should acknowledge that a lot of people aren't great moderators, unfortunately, in my experience. And it's hard to kind of judge your own performance, but being on the other side of the hot seat, I have seen that there's some things that people I think forget to keep in mind, and ultimately, if nothing else, we have to realize we're dealing with people, and people are different from one another, and and ultimately need to be able to adapt to whoever we're working with.
So that's exactly what I was saying. So, for people that consider themselves a good moderator, what would you say does make a good moderator?
Well, so that's definitely what we're going to focus on. I think that
there you go.
Acknowledging everyone's personalities, I think, is really key. So I have kind of developed here kind of a spectrum of different personalities here, everyone from Pee Wee Herman on down to being fairly robotic, and everyone in between. And you'll probably see some of your favorite celebrities here.
Some familiar faces,
so, yeah. So I mean, and not to pick on Oprah or anything, but Oprah is a great dynamic person, and she has such a great personality. But as a moderator who's trying to embody neutrality and really having the participant be the voice, you need to make sure that you're not overbearing. That you're really to some extent reserved. Of course, on the other side of the spectrum, kind of the Ben Stein, that's someone who's being a little known for being quite robotic.
Yeah.
So if you've ever seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off, that's a little bit too reserved. I think you don't want the participant to sleep. This is not an experiment that you have them in where you have to be completely neutral and not ever crack a smile. So there's a happy medium here, and you can see people maybe towards the middle maybe Barbara Walters or even Anderson Cooper, who, can establish pretty quickly a good rapport with people. He's friendly, not too friendly. And, you want to be able to strike that balance because ultimately that's, again, going to put the person who's sitting with you at ease, and you're going to get the best feedback that way.
I'm personally a really big fan of Anderson Cooper. I think he's fabulous at what he does. Aside from all these different personality traits where you're saying you don't necessarily want to be Pee Wee Herman when you're over animated and
that's too
it's too much, and then you don't want to be a robot. You kind of want to be a little personalized and have that human aspect to you. But I would say, aside from these different personality traits, what else would make, what other components go into being a good moderator?
Yeah, well, I mean, aside from just, acknowledging kind of your natural personality, some people are more stoic and some people are more animated than others. You have to, as yourself, sort of embody neutrality. We talked about, being friendly and approachable, but you never want to be too friendly. That can lead to other kinds of problems. And, all of us as moderators, we're human beings. We have our own opinions of whatever it is we're evaluating, whatever the research topic is. But you really have to keep yourself objective and also open-minded, realizing that, the reason we're bringing people into research is to get their opinions and sort of broaden our understanding of whatever research challenge we're facing. And you have to kind of embody that curiosity and have that, willingness to want to, understand people a little bit better. And I do find that working with some really seasoned moderators who've been doing this a long time, and they're really good at what they do, somewhere along the line, they lost that curiosity, and it shows. They sort of go through the motions of being professional, but they forget to ask some of those key questions along the way. And then flexibility is key, because often we're dealing with technology, which of course can go wrong. You never can predict what's going to happen.
You can't.
And, and you never know what kind of participant situations you might have. You may have someone who their cell phone rings in the middle of a session, and it causes an interruption. Or, for some reason, you screened and you thought you had the best person there, and it turns out they're not a good participant. They're not a good fit. So, you as a moderator always want to make the person feel comfortable, but you're going to have to adapt to varying situations and dealing with ambiguity. If we don't understand what someone's trying to tell us, or we don't understand what exactly is happening, not losing our calm and cool, but still being able to proceed with with getting the answers we need.
I think one of the biggest takeaways I took as you're saying these different attributes is it's really important to have a good rapport with the participant, and you've got to build that with them. I mean, this person doesn't know you, and they have to feel comfortable with you to kind of share their thoughts and their opinions, and you have to find that happy medium, that happy balance. I think that's really great.
Yeah.
So what other tips or kind of tricks you'd give someone who really wants to brush up on their skills, and whether they're beginner, they've been doing this for a lot of years, just the really important do's and don'ts? Yeah,
well, first thing to be aware of is, we talked a lot about the moderator's personality and how the moderator should be reacting, and but realizing that the participants, in almost all occasions, they're going to feel like they're being tested. So naturally, they're going to be a bit nervous. Maybe they've never been in a user research study before, so they don't even know what to expect.
Right.
And depending on the environment you're in, if you have a one-way mirror or some observers in the room, people are going to be naturally quite apprehensive. And then what happens when people are feeling they're being tested, you could tell them 100 times, we're not testing you, we're testing the interface. They're still going to feel on some level that they're being evaluated. And what happens then is people are on their best behavior, they sit up straight, and and they have a lot more patience. They satisfy is the term we use a lot. They want to please you. They want to, they don't want to be necessarily too critical because, they don't want to feel like they're being disagreeable, and they're going to really try their hardest, to succeed at, whatever task you've given them.
I can only imagine, you're in a room with someone, you don't really know them, you're not going to be as comfortable as you are as if you're at home on your own computer. And I can relate to that. Maybe I'm on a website like Pinterest or something, and that pin is just not loading fast enough for me. I would threaten to toss my computer across, the room and come up with every curse word I could think of. But if I'm sitting in a room and someone's asking me questions and the page isn't loading to my liking or something, I'm not going to repeat that same behavior. I mean, so I can imagine that difficulty in really trying to get someone comfortable to share the same with her.
Yeah, I mean, and you're dealing often probably with a stranger. Yeah. So, so how we deal with our friends and strangers is obviously very different.
Yeah.
So, so you got to always have that, in the back of your mind, as you're doing these sessions. And then, a primary method we use, especially user experience testing, is the ThinkAloud method. And I'm sure many of you at home use that kind of method. And, it can work incredibly well, but you have to make sure that you explain what that is and just not assume a person's going to do that naturally because, talking out loud almost to yourself is not very natural. You can demonstrate it, but just don't just assume that people are going to be naturally thinking out loud and giving you the kind of feedback you want without giving them a little bit more of an understanding expectation of what you're trying to learn with that. So it can be a powerful tool. It can also be abused by folks as well because, we want participants to talk out loud. We want to be able to ask them key questions, but you have to manage that dynamic.
So you would say it's most important that you want the participant to do most of that talking.
Yes,
and the really key component in that is a moderator should really only ask questions when something important arises or something kind of comes up, but otherwise you let your participants speak and give you as much valuable information as you can grab from them.
Yeah, you want to hear from them. Of course, when you interrupt someone, you're interrupting their train of thought, and and that next sentence they say could be really important. But if you sort of jump in there with your own question, one, you've interrupted them, and two, you may have biased them with something they may have said. So so what I really think about in terms of a ThinkAloud protocol is, first you want to keep quiet. You're there as an observer. And also, if you're observing and not talking, it allows you to do two things. I mean, one is you can really focus on what the participant is doing, what they're saying, and also even their nonverbal behaviors as well can be quite telling.
Yeah.
And then also it allows you to really think and formulate your questions. So it's not just like verbal diarrhea, if you will. It's, you have really poignant, good probes that are really getting at what you want without leading participants.
Yeah.
And then finally, you do want to ask questions, and make sure that you're not just letting the participant talk the entire time. You do want to interrupt at, key strategic moments.
So it's really important to, keep that poker face on and to not let up and let a participant know if they've done something wrong or maybe they're not steering in the direction that you imagine that they would have. Could you give us a couple scenarios where maybe something like this happened?
Yeah, well, I mean, exactly. So, I mean, it's amazing that, it's so easy to bias someone. Yep. I mean, and our nonverbal behaviors really portray us, betray us actually in many ways. So you can see the woman here I have in this photo where, if you really take a good hard look at her and let's say she's moderating, she's not saying, in her mouth's closed, she's not saying anything, but she's actually saying a lot non-verbally.
Yep.
I mean, just, Kelly, what does it even seem like? What is she conveying here?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, by her face right away, she looks unpleased with whatever they're doing or a little concerned, or she's not really sure where the participant is maybe leading at this point. Yeah,
there's probably some negative emotions going on there. Crossing of the arms can be a little adversarial. If you see with her, sort of furrowing her brow a little bit and with her eyebrows.
She doesn't look happy.
She doesn't look happy, and she's so if a participant is doing something and they turn to the moderator and they look like that, or even a hint of that, the person is going to feel, oh my God, I probably did something wrong, or I annoyed her somehow, and that of course now changes the whole dynamic. So really embody neutrality as much as you can, both with what you're saying and how you're saying it, your voice and your tone, as well as paying attention to to how you're representing yourself as well. Yeah, and and there are a lot of situations that can happen in these sessions, and
I'm sure, as you were trying to say, participants may ask you a question that could come up or something?
I get questions all the time, and sometimes, they're important questions to answer at that moment. So if I've just given a participant a scenario and a task I want them to do, if they ask me for clarification on that task, in terms of like, I didn't fully understand what you wanted me to do, or, could you repeat the question again? I'm more than happy to do that. However, one caveat to that is, sometimes, even though we tell people we're not testing them, they think of it as a test. And of course, if you're being tested, you want to get an answer, perhaps. So you never want to rephrase the question with leading wording or giving away the answer by clarifying. But you do need to clarify, because if they don't understand the task, you're not going to get the kind of information you want.
So what would you do when a participant is frustrated or grunts or sighs, or you can tell they're stuck, maybe?
Yeah, so without them literally saying, I'm stuck, I'm not sure what to do, just like with the moderator's nonverbal communication, participants can be quite expressive.
Oh, I can imagine.
So, people can, visibly look frustrated or anxious, or have a confused face on them, or people make noises, they grunt, they get visibly frustrated, and and you don't want to necessarily interrupt a person's thought process, but those are really strong cues to you as a moderator to probe. Even if the person hasn't said, I don't like something, I'm confused, those nonverbal behaviors, you should be probing on those and asking, what people's thoughts are after they've made those noises.
Okay, good. I think we have a question from the audience, and we'll have our producer that's been sitting with us, Rick DeMasso. He's actually one of our UX researchers. He's just going to kind of shout out the question for us.
Great, okay.
Kelly and Andrew, great question in from Kyle. He wants to know if encouraging thinking out loud. Do you have a good example of how to get participants in the mindset of being able to think out loud and be comfortable in the interview?
Yeah, that's a very good. Yeah, that's a good question. You can have them do something that's not related to the study, just to kind of warm them up. So if it's a web study, you can take them to a non-related website, have them practice it out, maybe just for one task really quickly, and then that's a good way for you to just see, frankly, right off the bat, are they good at thinking aloud naturally or not?
Yeah.
And if they're not, or they're not giving you the kind of feedback you would expect, that's your time to kind of help them understand what you're trying to accomplish. And then when you do the real task, the person is really set and ready to go to give you that kind of think aloud feedback.
That's great. So then another question would be, what do you do when a participant does the wrong thing?
Yeah, it'd be great if they, didn't have any problems in their experience, but problems happen. People can't, they can't find something, they're confused by something, they make a mistake filling out a form, what have you, so you as the moderator, that's a key, moment there. One, we never want participants to feel uncomfortable. So if they made a mistake or they couldn't find something, we never want them to feel bad about it. That just reinforces the feeling of being tested situation. However, that is your key moment as a moderator to find out what is going on there, but in a way where it's not accusatory. So you have to make sure the language of your questioning never has a positive or negative connotation to it. But you need to find out what went wrong. So you want to ask them, is there something more they could do to make something clearer, or is there a way that a participant would prefer to see something, and that way you're still keeping neutral, but getting the answers you need.
That's a great answer. So then that kind of leads to the opposite side of things. What do you do as a moderator when your participant does the right thing? How do you react? What are the next steps?
Yeah. Well, hopefully they'll be doing some things that are right. And in many cases, a lot of things go right. They're breezing through tasks in a usability test, or, they're giving you great feedback, great insights, and, the natural thing as a human being is to want to praise someone for that great feedback and for them doing a good job. Problem is, just like the wrong thing and not letting them know that they're, not doing too well, you don't want to overly praise them, because what happens then if they do a lot of great stuff and then they do something not so great? You need to, at least if you're going to give positive reinforcement, be very consistent in doing it all the time, no matter what. or just try to keep fairly neutral. If they succeeded with a task, no problem. You can say, okay, we're going to move on to our next task. If they completely bomb the task, you'll say, okay, we'll move on with our next task. And no difference in how I presented that.
Keep that poker face. So as challenging as that is, to keep your poker face and not to reward them and to make them feel good and praise them like you just gave me the information I needed and they did the right thing, I can imagine it's really challenging also to avoid when they're asking for your opinion, when they're kind of giving you those questions like, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? How do you dodge them and navigate them to concentrate on the task?
Yes, it all comes down to that sort of people want validation, so they want to feel like, that their thoughts and opinions and what they did is right. So they'll turn to me and they'll say, so that was confusing, wasn't it, Kelly? I mean, that design really isn't very good, right? Isn't it? Right. Or it's like, I love that. Kelly, isn't that fantastic? And,
guide them without them knowing it.
Well, you don't want to guide them. Right. What I do is I just reflect it back at them.
Yeah.
I say, I'm really interested in your opinion, or it's like, tell me more about. You said you found this really helpful. Tell me more about your thoughts on that. And as long as you sort of redirect it back to them, you'll usually be in good shape.
So then the last question, and this is one that I'm sure a lot of seasoned moderators or people who've been doing this for a while, what do you do when a participant asks you, did I just get the task right? Did I do it right? Is this the right guidance? Yeah,
it all goes back to that. If you want it to feel validated, and also they're still in their mindset, well, I'm still being tested.
Yeah.
So, so again, you never want to reveal that, yes, they got it right, they passed the test. Again, you want to use that reflection technique to sort of turn it back to them and say, I don't know, did you feel that you found what you were looking for, in that case? Or could you tell me what you thought you expected to find, if they're a little unsure? But never fully revealing that what they did is right or wrong. And I should point out back to the opinion one.
Yeah.
If they're really set, and I've had this where they just, they need that validation. I say very nicely, I'm more than happy to give you my opinion, after we've finished our session together. If they absolutely need, really want to discuss it. And then usually they acknowledge it. They feel like, okay, I'm going to be heard. And then it allows us to move on.
Yeah, that's a nice way, I'm sure, to make them feel like, okay, I'll still get the answers I need at the end of it, or kind of reassure them almost. So you've been doing this for a long time. You've done thousands of these different types of sessions. You've met many types of different people, needless to say, many different types of personalities.
Yes.
Which there are a lot of different personalities out there. What are some of these different types of personalities you've seen, and are they recurring? I mean, what are these different types that you interact with?
Yeah, so you mean over the 15 plus years I've been moderating these kind of sessions, you do notice a common personality type or types that do come up, and the ones that I'm going to talk to you about today are ones that I've had in different frequencies. Some of them are definitely more challenging to work with than others.
Yeah.
So I'll discuss with you some of the ones that I've come across. The first one is what I call the mute. So he or she is probably more shy than your typical person. Just like I mentioned earlier, I mean, all the things in terms of feeling like they're tested and being nervous is probably amplified by this person. And also it's very possible they're just not used to giving their opinion very much. And what happens with the mute is you get kind of a lot of one-word answers, so Kelly, how was that? It's fine.
Okay.
It's okay. Thinking out loud is often a big problem with these people too, in that, it's definitely not a natural thing for them to do, and they either forget to do it, or it's something that they're not very comfortable doing. So, so you might be wondering, well, how do we work with a mute then? That sounds pretty hard if we're wanting to think aloud and we want their feedback. What you do typically have to do is, in this case, is be a little bit more assertive with reminding them to think out loud, courteously but frequently, saying that, Kelly, I'm really interested in your feedback. It'd be so helpful if you sort of think out loud for me, and and periodically remind you to do that. And then try not to give them the opportunity to answer with one-word answers. So really with your questioning, really try to make it where you're being very specific about what you want them to comment on. So I might say, Kelly, when you said earlier you found the navigation confusing.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on what you meant by confusing? Or I noticed that when you were struggling with something that you in this case, maybe I might call them out on it. I'll say, you looked a little frustrated. Can you tell me, how they can improve this site? So we might have to probe a little deeper with someone who is not as forthcoming with information. The talker is the officer of these, and
those must be fun people to work with.
Well, they are. I mean, they can be very jolly and friendly, and they're naturally very extroverted, and unfortunately, with the talker, they're not talking about the things that we want them to talk about. They're telling you about their kid's softball team, and and how they won the championship, and and then they took them out for ice cream afterwards, and and they're just trying to be friendly, and and it's a natural inclination as you as a moderator, as I said, to be friendly and try to engage with a person. But the problem is that this person's daytime suck. They will eat up all your time. So, and they can quickly commandeer the session. And you're in many cases paying these people. You have a short, finite amount of time with them. What you need to do with a talker is redirect the conversation after you've acknowledged their story. So you don't want to be rude after they're telling you all about the kids' softball team and say, well, Kelly, I really need us to focus on this, because what will happen is you'll end up shutting them down, or they won't be as responsive. So what you do is you acknowledge the story. Okay, that sounds really interesting, that they won their softball team. And then you kind of sneak in your question there. But Kelly, when you mentioned earlier about being confused about the navigation, I think you were about to tell me you were about to mention something.
Right.
So steer you back, but acknowledge the story or whatever they're telling you about. But then slip in that redirect there.
And this guy looks so happy. I mean, he's just making me smile.
They're great people.
He's making me happy.
But they like to talk a lot. The designer. So he or she is someone who, maybe they took a course in web design in college 10 years ago, and they feel like, they know everything about design, and you didn't probably bring them into these sessions to be designers. You guys have those people on your staff who do this, day in, day out. But the kind of feedback you're getting from the designers is really not what you want. They may harp on a certain color. I've had this happen where the guy hated yellow, and the site had yellow all over it. He could not get past the yellow. He's telling me all about why yellow is not a good color for them, and he just couldn't get off the yellow thing. So again, just like the other folks, trying to get to the questions and get the answers that you're looking for, you want to acknowledge, like the talker, that you want to acknowledge what they're saying, that's really helpful about the color, and, I can certainly bring that up with them, so they feel heard. But again, slip in that question about, well, I really would help, I'd like your feedback on this particular thing. So they understand what it is you really do want to focus on, and that it's not necessarily about the design. And as long as you have a cooperative person, they're willing to engage, in that part of the conversation.
That makes sense.
So the naysayer. So this is someone who, even if you've screened, somehow maybe they made it through, and they've had some bad experiences with the company or the website or the product before. So, so maybe the customer service they had was really bad, and they just don't like it very much. And what happens is, even if the experience they're having with the product that you're giving them is pretty good, they're clouded with this negativity, and the kind of feedback they're giving you is not getting through that fog, I guess you could say. So again, just like the other folks, what you really need to do is help them understand the kind of questions that you want answers to, and also acknowledgement. This is someone for sure who wants validation that their concerns are being heard, and this is a person who's going to be asking for your opinion a lot. They'll say, Kelly, I mean, haven't you had the same problem with them? This company is,
they want you to feel for them and like relate
and acknowledge it. So this is very dangerous. You don't want to go down the acknowledgement track. You really want to acknowledge what they're saying, and that I understand. It sounds like you are having concerns about that, and feeling empathetic to that, but not sympathetic though.
Sure.
Because then you're feeding the flames in that case. So still acknowledgement about their concern, but then redirecting so they can understand what you need them to focus on. So I say the most common and the most challenging person to work with, and it may seem a little odd, but
drum roll.
But Mr. and Mrs. Positive is the most challenging person to work with, because this person is going to satisfy the most. They're going to feel like whatever you present with them is good enough or great. They're going to give you on all your satisfaction scores 10 out of 10. Everything is great. Everything is rosy. Reality is, though,
daisies and cupcakes.
I'm afraid so. And while it is very easy to work with someone like this because they're not being negative, they're not giving you their true feelings. They're being too polite. Or even frankly, maybe they're just their mindset, but they're there to help you understand in a user experience test how we can improve the product further. So if they're only giving you positive feedback, even if they've had frankly a horrible experience, and maybe they failed every task miserably, you're not getting the answers you need, and it's skewing your data.
Yeah.
So what you got to do with this person, which almost seems like it's breaking the rules, is you do have to let them know that things didn't go so well. If they failed every task, or they really obviously took them 10 minutes to find something, you need to acknowledge that failure in a polite and respectful way, but that's the only way you're going to get true feedback from them. So you might say, so Kelly, I understand you said that this experience was great, and you don't have any feedback, and you told me that you would just read the user manual for the website in this case. But what about other people who you can sort of turn it around, maybe not about them, but helping out other people? Kelly, maybe if you're working with someone else who really might be struggling, what could they do to help that person? And then you might be able to get someone to be a little bit more open, because it's not their issue, it's helping out a friend in that case.
That's good. I think Brooke has a question for us.
Right. So questions are pouring in. Thank you, everyone, who's been chiming in the Q&A box. It's really hot. I've got two questions, and they kind of go well together. Estelle and Adrian had some thoughts on maybe some other personas here. So what about somebody who potentially may be inebriated in some shape or fashion, or isn't altogether there, or even maybe somebody who's clearly lied to get into the study and may not fit the participant profile, but really wants to participate? Maybe you can touch on those personas.
That's a good question, because I'm sure that happens a lot, where people just want to make an extra buck or get the reward, or
they can work their way around the screen.
Well,
the inebriated one is interesting. I have had that on a few occasions. I mean, honestly, if someone is truly not in their full faculties, I mean, you, at that point, and it's very obvious that that's the situation, you really do want to end the session as early as possible and just thank them and compensate them for their time. That you don't want to include that person in your study. Someone who has just worked their way through the screener can be a judgment call. If you have very specific requirements, and clearly they're not the right target, you can try to keep them a little bit longer for some general feedback on whatever product it is. Typically, I cut those sessions a little short. I don't let the person ever know that. I never let them know that they're not a good fit for the study. I just let them know that I said, we covered great ground in this session. We covered everything that I hoped to. Thank you so much for coming in, and bye-bye.
Thanks for your time.
But never make them feel like they did anything wrong. And if you can use them to some extent, you should, because you probably are paying them. Great.
Awesome.
All right. So we have a little treat for you. So Kelly and I pre-recorded a few of these different kind of personas. So we did a bit of role-playing to sort of demonstrate what some of these people might be like in the real world. And what we'd like you guys to do at home is enjoy the clips, keep feeding Reed questions, questions, and then we'll do our best to answer questions and comments, critiques, and then also be a quick poll as well, because we're curious to know, is it obvious which one of the personas that Kelly is portraying here. So
sounds good. And I did not go to acting school, so enjoy.
Okay, Kelly, so we're on the Bank of America website, and it's my understanding you're a current customer of Bank of America?
I am a current customer with them, and I'm not happy with them at all, actually, right now. Last week, I had to get a check, and you would think that if you're out of checks, easily they'll give you another one. I had to wait in line on my lunch break for over an hour. There's no reason that you should have to wait that long in line at Bank of America. They need more tellers, especially on a lunch break. There were 3 people there waiting forever. Then they were actually going to charge me for a cashier's check. Who charges their client? I've been with them for 10 years. Why would they charge me for an extra check?
I'm not sure, and I'm
so annoyed with them right now.
I wish you had a better experience, and I feel bad about that. Have you been on their website before?
Yeah, I've been on their website before. Okay. It's not any better.
Well, we're going to look at something very specific today, actually. And what I'd like you to focus on is, let's say the scenario was you're buying a new home, and you wanted to find out what mortgage rates they have currently for a 30-year fixed loan.
Which I've done that before, and every time I call in, nobody's helpful. Every single time I call and I inquire about a mortgage, it's like nobody knows what they're doing over there. And I have to sit on hold forever. I mean, it is the most frustrating thing.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I can imagine
I
that would be frustrating.
could go on for days about the different experiences.
But let's see, perhaps in this case, if the website would serve you in this particular case. And it'd be great if you could think out loud as you go through the site. That'd be incredibly helpful to know what you're thinking.
Okay. So I'm looking for a mortgage. Well, there's a banner there. Of course, they're screaming at you to take your money. No, I don't want this. See, I don't want to call them. I've already called them so many times, and they don't know what they're doing every single time I call. All right, let's look at a mortgage here. Wow, that's a bit high, don't you think? That's very expensive. I would not...
And just tell me when you feel like you found the information that I'd asked you to look for.
Well, I guess the information's here, but, I mean, these numbers are outrageous. I don't think it's...
So how would you... So in terms of being able to find that information, how would you... I guess first, did you feel like you were able to find the information?
I mean, yeah, I guess it was right at the top. It was really easy, but, I mean, still, I think that they need to lower their prices. I think they need to have an easier way than just a drop-down menu. There should be much more advantages for being a long-time customer. They should have something that's much more beneficial rather than the prices that they're offering here. I just don't think it's quite fair.
I could understand that, and that's important feedback, so we can understand that. I really would like to understand, though, from the website's experience, is there anything they could do to make it easier to get to this information?
I guess it's okay. I guess it was relatively easy to find, but...
Okay. And let's see if we can find, let's see if you want to understand for your situation. Let's say we're interested in spending $200,000 on a home, and you wanted to put down $15,000. Can you show me how it would help you find out exactly how much you'd be paying per month? Is there some sort of...
There's no way that I'm doing mortgages with them. I mean, this is just outrageous, the types of places. But I guess I would go here. Let's see, probably the most outrageous loans they're going to give me. And I'm sure if I called and inquired as well about this, that I'd be on hold forever. And that's no help.
Okay. Let's see how it goes on the website.
Okay. So I guess I would do more or less. I'm looking for a home range around here. Okay. A down payment. I don't know.
Maybe let's just say $50,000.
Okay. In this case. $50,000. Then I would see the rate. Oh, see, there's always an issue. Down payment needs to be at least.
So what is it telling you in this case?
Of course, there's an error there, and it's telling me we have to put a down payment of at least 20% of the purchase I've made, which, I mean, I don't think that they should give me those types of exclusions, but...
So they say, so it says 20%, so what does that mean to you in this particular situation? What number would you put in this box?
I guess I have to put a higher rate for them. Fine. Let's see if I get the rates here. so expensive these days to rent a house, isn't it? It's incredible. I mean,
So let's see what they came up with here.
no, this is no good. I'm not happy with this.
Okay. Can you tell me specifically what you don't like in this case?
It's just too expensive. I'm not buying a house. I mean,
Okay. So let's talk about this particular screen, though, for a
Okay.
moment. So, based on the information you provided, is there any information that you don't see here that would be important for you?
I guess it's all there.
Okay. All right. Great. Anything else you'd suggest in order to get you to this information faster, or in a more a way that would be better suited for you?
No, I just think that their website could probably be a little bit faster. Sometimes loading time takes a lot longer, and it shouldn't take as long as it does. One time I was on their website waiting for like an hour for the same page to load. I think their site was crashing.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It could be a lot faster.
Okay, that's very useful feedback, and I'll make sure that gets to the right people. So, again, thank you, Kelly. I appreciate your time today. All right.
We hope you guys enjoyed that. We're curious to see what personalities you think it was. So let's go ahead and do a poll. We want to hear what you guys have to say. Which persona was it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and while you're filling that out, I know that we've been getting some questions and some feedback, so that'd be great to hear.
Sure. So just on the general personas, one interesting question here. Andrew, maybe an anecdotal story. What's the worst participant you've ever had?
Ooh.
Boy. Let's see. See, worst is sort of a subjective term. I'll say challenging. That's probably another way of phrasing it. Yeah, well, like I was telling earlier, I mean, that sort of someone being very negative and not willing to sort of, acknowledge what's going on for real. I mean, I really had to sort of rein her in, if you will, to try to like really get her focusing on helping us understand her issues with the website and not the customer service for this particular company. And it was really hard. She felt very passionately about her experience, and she really wanted me to feed off of her negativity, really. So I smiled a lot, and I tried to, hear her. That was challenging, for sure.
Okay. And how about another great question in from the audience here. What do you do when you get a participant that's perhaps not very tech savvy, but you still have to navigate through the session? How do you balance that?
That would be my other story I was going to mention, was that this was years ago, I mean, probably maybe 12 years ago, where I had an older woman who made it through the screener. She claimed to be a computer user, but then she actually thought that you used the mouse by holding it onto the computer screen and moving it on the screen. Oh. So, so what do you do in a situation like that? Well, we go back to our rules. I mean, I didn't make her feel like she was doing something wrong necessarily. Yes. I said, it's an interesting way of interacting with the computer. Can you explain to me how the mouse would be working for you in this case? So I completely,
Is that when
I didn't laugh. There was no laughing. I really took what she was doing seriously, and she was a very nice woman, and I sort of eventually guided her back to having the mouse on the table. And so that was a challenging one for sure. But yeah, I mean, tech savviness is always a problem. We at QLine, we test a lot of new devices and a lot of new applications that people may not be familiar with how they would typically work. And so we do encounter a lot of situations where people just don't know what to do. And unless there's an actual technical issue with the equipment, we really want to see how people would naturally interact with it. And if they struggle, then that's an important finding for us.
Okay, and last question here from Matthew. Matthew asked, in the video you said that you take ownership and that you want to make sure that you get the feedback to the correct person. Is that standard operating procedure? You mentioned wanting to be empathetic but not sympathetic to someone's opinion. So maybe your thoughts on a little bit about that?
Well, getting, in terms of people feeling like they're being heard, I mean, they do know that we're doing this research for clients, and ultimately probably the client who is the product they're experiencing. So they know that this is their opportunity to give true feedback. And I usually keep it fairly generic. I want them to feel like they're being acknowledged. And yes, I mean I do make sure that if they do have a particular concern, whoever the representative is, I do try to make a good faith effort and give that feedback to that person.
Great. So let's go ahead. Let's see what people thought of our video. What persona?
Well,
Ooh.
The naysayer, quite a bit for sure. And the talker, I could see a little bit of a talker in there too.
I can see a talker in there too.
It's a little bit of a hybrid there for sure. So we have one more video for you, and this one I think should be quite interesting for folks at home. We're going to go ahead and play that one for you.
So we're here on the Carnival Cruise Line's website.
Okay.
And let's say that you heard about the new Carnival Vista cruise ship. And you wanted to find out more about it. You wanted to understand what new features they're offering. I'd like you to see if you can find that information on this website. So in a moment I'm going to have you use it. And when you're using it, I'd like you to think out loud. Tell me what you're thinking about the experience. At this point, you're free to see if you can find that information.
Okay, let's see. So I'm going to look for the newest cruise ship they have. Wow, these pictures are really captivating, aren't they? I mean, they kind of just pull you in and make me just want to book a cruise right now. Maybe it's going to be one of these banners, so I can click through here. I saw this earlier. I cannot believe Kathy Griffin is going to be on this cruise ship. That is so cool. Wow. How much fun it would be to see a comedian on a cruise ship. I saw Amy Schumer not that long ago. She was really fantastic, and I actually think she would be perfect for a cruise ship. She kind of has the right tone of like raunchy, but like still family fun. And but I would love to see Kathy Griffin. Wow. And look at all these other people that they have attending. Cruise ships are really the best kind of way if you just want to go and like have an all-inclusive. And to see Kathy Griffin, I'm in. Where do I sign up?
That's very exciting. That it sounds like she's going to be there. I do have
wow.
I do want to see if we can find though that Carnival Vista. See if we can find out.
Okay,
about that.
all right. Let me go back to the homepage. Let's see. Maybe Kathy will be on the Carnival Vista. I would love that. So we have the different destinations here. Man, I could really sign up for a cruise right now. But for this ship, I could go to the top. And so they have learn and explore. I mean, I don't really understand what are the differences between the two. Why would they put names that are so similar to each other?
Okay, Kelly. So we're here on the Carnival Cruise Line's website.
Okay.
And let's say that you heard about the new Carnival Vista cruise ship. And you wanted to find out more about it. You wanted to understand what new features they're offering. I'd like you to see if you can find that information on this website. So in a moment I'm going to have you use it. And when you're using it, I'd like you to think out loud. Tell me what you're thinking about the experience. At this point, you're free to see if you can find that information.
Okay, let's see. So I'm going to look for the newest cruise ship they have. Wow, these pictures are really captivating, aren't they? I mean, they kind of just pull you in and make me just want to book a cruise right now. Maybe it's going to be one of these banners, so I can click through here. I saw this earlier. I cannot believe Kathy Griffin is going to be on this cruise ship. That is so cool. Wow. How much fun it would be to see a comedian on a cruise ship. I saw Amy Schumer not that long ago. She was really fantastic, and I actually think she would be perfect for a cruise ship. She kind of has the right tone of like raunchy, but like still family fun. And but I would love to see Kathy Griffin. Wow. And look at all these other people that they have attending. Cruise ships are really the best kind of way if you just want to go and like have an all-inclusive. And to see Kathy Griffin, I'm in. Where do I sign up?
That's very exciting. That it sounds like she's going to be there. I do have
wow.
I do want to see if we can find though that Carnival Vista. See if we can find out.
Okay,
about that.
all right. Let me go back to the homepage. Let's see. Maybe Kathy will be on the Carnival Vista. I would love that. So we have the different destinations here. Man, I could really sign up for a cruise right now. But for this ship, I could go to the top. And so they have learn and explore. I mean, I don't really understand what are the differences between the two. Why would they put names that are so similar to each other? Learning just, brings me back to school, and I feel like a teacher is trying to teach me in middle school or high school, or, I mean, it's just confusing. So learning, and what's it like? Where can I go? No, that's not quite right. Exploring the ship. planning a cruise. It may be in there. I'm not going to manage one because I haven't found one yet. Let me go back to explore. Destinations, onboard activities, so much fun. Have you ever done the activities on there? The dining's pretty decent. I guess it would be in our ships. Let me see. But I don't know if this is it. All Carnival cruises. 20? No, I don't know. But man, that looks inviting. Look at that picture on the water. Last time I was there, they have all these really fun activities on the deck ship here, and you get to be outside. You get a full view. I mean, it's the only place that you can really see an entire view of the ocean. It's kind of like you're having this giant party. No one can hear. You're in the middle of nowhere. I mean, this picture really kind of just reminds me of that moment I had when I was on a cruise ship. Like, wow, we're having a party. We're having fun in the middle of the ocean. Like, it's just amazing.
I could certainly understand that for sure.
I know.
So where would you find? So the Carnival Vista, like I said, is a new ship they have. How would you learn more about what they?
So I think this is it. I think this is the ship here. So, that's such a nice picture. Yeah, I guess this is it. I don't know. What should I do? I guess this is it. So this is the new Carnival Vista. Yeah, it's right here. I can click on that. Let's see the different things. Worth the wait. Have a look. Wow, look at that deck top they have. I mean, that looks brand new. That looks really, really nice, actually. I mean, dining. This looks like a really swanky type of ship. I wonder if it's more for kids or more for families or more for like young people. I don't know. It's hard to tell.
So if you wanted to learn more about the ship, learn about the features it has,
okay.
How would you do that?
I don't know. What would I do here? I guess worth the wait. Have a look. Oh, so down here there's different, but I don't know if I should scroll. See, that's really kind of confusing. It just looks like giant banners to me, and now it's like flipping me back up to the top. I'm assuming this is all about the ship, but it's really not navigating me in the right way. I feel like I'm not even scrolling through. Oh, here are the deck plans. Okay, fine, but I'm not in architecture, so why would I want to see the plans? I don't necessarily need to see those. Again, with the plans, I mean, is the site's trying to make me feel like I should be in architecture or something, and I'm just really. There's that ship again. Wow, it looks like a very classy, fun ship. It's clearly brand new.
What might be some features that you would want to learn about on a ship like this?
The activities that they have on there. The dining is really important. I don't know if you've ever eaten the food on there, but the food's pretty good. They always, I mean, the typical thing is like a
I'm sorry. And how would you find out about?
How would I find about that? So I guess let me try scrolling again. Okay, so up here there's some different things. Like I said, click on dining, but that wasn't really clear before. I think they should make it easier. Okay. These are the different locations, but I want to see the food. Like I said, they have a big Alaska. I guess this place has a seafood shack, but I don't really love seafood, so in that case, I probably wouldn't. Okay.
So I'm curious. So based on interacting with this information about the new Carnival Vista, what are your thoughts about the way that you're finding this information? About how you're learning about
the pictures are great. I kind of like scrolling through. Wow, look at that dining hall. That's a pretty big dining hall. I mean, wow, this is a really swanky type of boat, man. I wonder who they're trying to get on here. I would grab a drink at any of these bars. Or, the pictures are nice. I guess there could be a little bit more text. So
okay.
I may be understanding a little bit more about the different things that I'm saying. I mean, there's a paragraph down here, but it's just all very wide and flipping through, and it's kind of making my head crazy.
So, just last question is about, if you could take us back to the homepage.
Okay. I think, did it take us there? Oh, there we go. Okay.
So you mentioned earlier, you were saying that it's a little confusing about learn and explore.
Yeah,
and the
what does that
between
mean?
Those two. So, can you think of any other words that might make more sense with that navigation?
I think they just combine them. I don't know why they need learn and explore. I mean, I guess learning they're trying to pitch to me. Exploring is exploring what type of ship, the different things they have. I mean, isn't it all the same? There goes Kathy Griffin just passed again. I just don't get it.
Great. Well, thank you. That's very useful. Thank you for your information.
Good. Okay, thanks. I gotta go get Kathy.
Okay, So,
let's hear what you guys got to say. Same thing. We're interested to hear what persona was that, and we're going to have a poll. So let's see, what do people think about the video they just saw? What persona do you think that was?
yeah, and we'll continue to take questions while you guys are answering our poll.
Sure. So another question coming in from the audience. During a task, how much time do you usually give participants before they're cutting off if you can see that they're having a difficult time and kind of struggling with it?
That is it's a tough judgment call because inevitably you want to make sure they have enough time to do the task, but of course you don't want them to take 10 minutes to do it. What I usually let people know up front is, pretend like you're at home. So if you normally were at the office and just, whenever you naturally stop at home, if you weren't able to accomplish something, that's when I want you to stop here. So that's usually what I would tell them.
Okay. And last question here. How do you encounter, have you encountered technical issues, and what do you do to make sure that participants don't feel like it's somehow their fault? Maybe we can talk about overcoming those obstacles.
Yeah, technical issues do happen, and that could be anything from like the recording software that we're using. In many cases, we're testing items that are prototypes, things that aren't even fully developed yet. So inevitably, something's going to happen. I would just say grace under pressure. For sure, don't let the person feel like they're the ones who did something wrong. Especially prototypes, something. I really go out of my way to let people know it's, certain things are not working. I try to be explicit if I can. But if it's something like our technology is not working, like the mouse batteries died, or my favorite are these infamous Windows updates that appear out of the blue. Sometimes you have to take a pause. I usually make a few jokes to lighten up the mood a little bit with the participant, and usually they laugh most of the time. And so if you lighten the mood, you sometimes have to buy yourself a little time until the technology issue is fixed. And then we do our best to resume as quickly as possible.
Great. So let's see. What do you guys think? Let's take a look at the results. We're all over. Okay.
For sure, the talker, and Miss Positive a little bit in there too. I'm sure that's. I would agree with that. I'm sure seeing Kathy Griffin was very exciting, apparently. So, but yeah, it can be tough though with someone who really, is clearly excited and very positive, but is not giving you the kind of feedback you want. So that can be quite a challenge.
Fantastic. So this is just a reminder, feel free to continue sending in your questions. Even once the broadcast is over, we still will be answering them. So send them in. We love to hear from you guys. And with that, our webinar is coming to a close here. We're really happy all of you were able to join us today. We hope you learned a lot from Andrew, and thank you, Andrew, for being here.
My pleasure.
And hopefully you walk away with some great tips for your next session that you're going to be moderating. So happy holidays, and have a great new year, and we'll see you guys soon.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye. Thanks.